What is the pentatonic scale, or the pentatonic scales? Where do they come from? Why are they so helpful and useful, and why do they work with everything? To do that, you're going to have to start with a major scale or a minor scale and learn a little bit about modes. So we're going to do that today. This is a keyboard on a piano. It's the white and black keys, right? I've got the note names for each piano key written down. We'll just pretend like that's middle C. And this, if you look at this way, that would be a guitar neck. So this might be your open A string. That would be your first fret, second fret, third fret, fourth fret, fifth fret, sixth fret, seventh fret, all the way up to where it hits the octave, which is your 12th fret, right? So I've put the guitar neck up against a piano keyboard so you can visualize it. Let's say you want to play a C major scale. Now let's look at what happened here. This, if you go on the piano or the fretboard, either one, this is your chromatic scale. These are all the notes you have available to you. These are called enharmonics. When you go up from A, it's an A sharp. When you come down from B, it's a B flat. Frequency-wise, are they the same note? Yeah, they're the same frequency. Theory-wise, we have differences in A and B because when you write the scale, you don't want to have a B flat next to a B. That doesn't make any sense. So you would say A sharp to B if that's what the scale called for. So anyway, let's see what happened here. Each fret on your neck is a half step. Each key on a piano key is a half step, right? This is from here to here is half step, from here to here is half step. Okay, but from here to here is a whole step. The pattern for a major scale is whole step, half step, whole step, half step, 2.5, 3.5. Each of these is a note in the scale. These are called degrees. So that's your root, tonic. This is second degree, third degree, fourth degree, fifth, sixth, seventh degree, and back to octave. If we started this scale on the second degree and played all those notes, what would happen there? Let's make D the root note now. D, E, oh, you could just write them all down, couldn't you, right? G, A, B, C, and then back to D, right? So what happened here? Well, you could just bring down the same whole step, half step pattern, right? Whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, whole step, half step, and then between C and D, you have to skip over this booger here to get back to the D. So that's a whole step. When you start the scale on the second degree, that's called the Dorian mode. All that we've done here is taken the same 2.5, 3.5 pattern, started on the second one, and we're spinning it back around again to do it again. So if you want to start on third degree, it would be half step, whole step, whole step, whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, whole step. That would be Phrygian mode. Okay, so they all sound very different. So this is the parent scale. This is Dorian. Its relative major or parent scale is the C major scale because they have all the same notes, just like you have the same D and A as your parents, right? So C major is the parent scale for D Dorian, right? This is D Dorian because the root note is D. It starts, that's the tonic that it starts and finishes on. What if we put this whole step, half step pattern, but made C the root note? So let's write these out so we don't get confused. We know this is your major scale, which is also Ionian. Your second degree is Dorian, right? So let's write out the Dorian pattern down here so we don't forget it. So now instead of 2.5, 3.5, you have 1.5, 3.5, 1. Let's put that on the C and see what happens. If C is going to be our root note and we want a C Dorian scale, we'll start with C. Now let's use this Dorian pattern and see what happens from here. Well, there's a whole step. So the second note in C Dorian is going to be a D. But now we have a half step instead of a whole step. Ionian is your major scale, right? So this is your Ionian scale, or mode, sorry. And we're going to do Dorian down here. Well, now that is going to be an E flat. Now it could be a D sharp, but we don't want the same note name on there. We don't want to say D, D sharp. So we're going to call this an E flat. Okay, so it still keeps the alphabet. We still want to keep the alphabet of the C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, right? From here we've done a half step. We're going to do a whole step from E flat now to F, and then another whole step from F to G, and another whole step from G to A, and a half step now, not to B, and then from B flat, we're going to take a whole step up to C, and that's how you double check yourself. You know you got back to tonic, you got back to your root note. And what do we have here? Let's just double check. We've got C to D, we've skipped one, that's a whole step, right? D to E flat, that's a half step. E flat to F, we've skipped the E, so this is a whole step. And then from F to G, well, we've skipped that black key, haven't we? So that's a whole step. G to A, skipped a black key, that's a whole step. A to B flat, those are right beside each other, that's a half step. And B flat to C, that's a whole step. Let's double check it. Whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, whole step, half step, whole step. And this is your Dorian mode. So let's write it out another way to look at it. Ionian is your major scale. Is C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, right? Well, if you start on second degree, it's still going to be the same notes. C, it'd be D, E, F, G, A, B, C, and then back around to D. But that D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, that is the Dorian scale. But because you started on the D note, it's a D Dorian. What we want to do is find the C Dorian scale. So instead of going 2.5, 3.5, we're going to start on the 2. So it'd be whole step, and then what's next? Half step, and what's next? Whole step, whole step, what's next? Whole step. From half step, you're going to come back around to the start here, up here, do a whole step. And this is called their natural order. This is the way they occur in a scale, so it'd be first degree, second degree, third degree, fourth degree, fifth, sixth, and seventh degree. So if we started on the third degree, that would start with a half step, and then go from there. Whole step, whole step, whole step, half step, go back around, whole step. And that's the pattern for your Phrygian scale. So that's third. Now we're going to start on fourth to find our Lydian. So we'd start up here on the fourth degree of the major scale. Whole step, whole step, whole step, half step, back around, whole step, half step. That's your pattern for the Lydian. Mixolydian is going to start on your 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th degree. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th degree. Whole step, half step, back around, whole step, half step, whole step. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6th degree is Aeolian. This is also called your natural minor. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Whole step, half step, whole step, half step, whole step, whole step. And then finally your 7th degree is Locrian or Locrian if you're European. So let's start on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Half step, back around. Whole step, half step, whole step, whole step. Now let's take a look at what those look like. If we make C our starting note in each one of those patterns, your ear is going to define every note you hear in that scale or in that song by its relationship to the one. Okay, so the goal here is we want to hear the differences between the Ionian, Dorian, Phrygian, Lydian, Mixolydian, Aeolian, Locrian modes. And the best way to do that is to start with the same root note. Okay? Because the intervallic patterns between each change are going to be way easier to hear if we have the same tonic for all of them. Those are called intervals. Right, so the relationship between the first and the third note is going to tell you whether it's a major or a minor chord. By the way, this is called natural order. So this is the way they would occur if we were to play them straight up: first degree, second degree, third degree, fourth degree, fifth degree, sixth degree, seventh degree, right? That's the order that they would happen in. Ionian, Dorian, Phrygian, Lydian, Mixolydian, Aeolian, Locrian. I remember that by saying I don't play loud music after lunch. You can remember it however you want to. We're going to do something different with it here in a minute, but to get there, let's go ahead and find the scales, okay? But starting on the same root note with every one of them, okay? So what we want to do is do parallel scales instead of relatives to see what happens to the notes, what makes them different. Because if you start with the same root note, well, you can see different notes are flatted or sharped or lowered or raised. So let's start on Dorian, go a whole step from C. You're going to whole step to D, half step, E flat, because you don't want to say D and D sharp together. You want all the note names to be different, like to keep the alphabet going. So you're going to say E flat. Now right there, let's look at what happened. You have to get to the third note. Whole step, whole step. We know whole step is 2 half steps. So think of it in half steps. 2 plus 2 is 4, right? Whole step plus a half step, that's only 3 half steps. So right there we know that getting up to the third note, the relationship between the first note and the third note, that's called a minor third. But it's already changed the flavor of what we're about to hear, right? So let's do The next one's going to be a whole step, and a whole step from an E flat is going to skip that middle one, be an F. And a whole step from an F is to a G, and then a whole step from a G is to an A, and then a half step from an A is to a B flat. Well, now look, we've lowered the third and the sixth. And then finally a whole step from B flat, skip the B, to C. And now we're back to tonic, and that's how we know we reached octave, right? So that's how we know we did it right. Okay, so Phrygian from C. What's a half step from C? Well, it's not going to be a C sharp. We're going to call it a D flat because we've got to keep the alphabet going, right? And the whole step from D flat is going to be an E flat. That's a minor third too. The whole step from E flat is going to be an F. And a whole step from F is going to be a G still. And then from a G, we're going to take a half step to an A flat. And from that A flat, we're going to take a whole step to a B flat. And then finally, a whole step from a B flat to a C, your octave. Let's do Lydian. Starting on C, whole step D, D to E, E to an F sharp. From an F sharp, we're going to do a half step to a G, G, whole step to an A. From A, a whole step to a B. From B, half step back to octave. Let's do Mixolydian. Whole step from C is D. Half step from E is F. And by the way, I remember this by thinking there's no black key between E and F, right? There's no black key between B and C. I'm in my 40s, so I remember Bill Clinton and Elmer Fudd. Okay, so from the F in Mixolydian, we're going to take a whole step to a G. From the G, we're going to take a whole step to an A. From the A, we're going to take a half step to not an A sharp, but a B flat. From the B flat, we'll go ahead and take that whole step back to octave. Let's do Aeolian. This is also the natural minor in C. Now remember, when we started up here playing the natural on the keyboard, and we started on A, it had all the same notes as C because we started on A, because this pattern, A was the one, right? It's the 6th in the major scale of C, because C major is the parent scale for it, right? But here we want to make C the 1 and apply the same intervallic pattern to it. So what does the C natural minor scale look like? That's Aeolian mode. C Aeolian, we're going to take a whole step, which is C to D. A half step, of course, is going to be E flat. Whole step from E flat to F. And then a whole step from F to G. And then a half step from G to A flat, because we want to keep that alphabet going, right? And then from A flat, we're going to take a whole step all the way up to B flat, which is going to bring us back to home base at the end of it with a whole step. Okay, Locrian mode, let's do half step from C to a D flat, whole step from D flat to an E flat, so that's a minor third as well, of course. Take another whole step from E flat up to an F, half step to G flat, whole step to A flat, whole step to B flat, and finally your last whole step brings you back to root note, octave, tonic. If we make the root note C, now we can see what's going on here. We can see some of them have a flatted third. That's interesting, because we know if you flat the third, it makes it a minor scale, right? Now this is a natural order. I don't play music. I don't play loud music after lunch. Ionian, Dorian, Phrygian, Lydian, Mixolydian, Aeolian, Locrian. But let's see what happens if we stack them order of brightness, because when you raise a note, it lifts it. You go from D to D sharp, it sounds high, or a D to an E flat, it sounds higher, right? It sounds happier, right? When you lower a note, it sinks lower, it sounds darker. So let's see what happens if we stack these up in a different order. Okay, let me set that up for you real quick. I don't play loud music after lunch. Ionian, Dorian, Phrygian, Lydian, Mixolydian, Aeolian, and Locrian. So I got those off to the side for reference. This is your natural order. That's how they occur. And as you saw with the whole step, half step patterns, those intervallic changes and the relationship to the root note of the scale changed. So let's see what happened here. As I said, when a note goes up, it gets brighter. When you lower it, it goes down, it gets darker. C major scale has no accidentals, which accidentals or enharmonics are these black keys here. The C major scale has no black keys. Let's see what happens though when we put those different patterns of the modes on them. And I still got them in natural order over here. Let's see if there are any sharps anywhere. Oh, and we have a sharp right here in Lydian. Since there are no other sharps there, let's put that one at the top. C, D, E, F sharp, G, A, B, and of course we know we loop back around to the octave. Who else has sharps? Nobody has sharps. So let's go ahead and write this one down. There's your Ionian. C, D, E, F, G, A, B. And all I'm doing is I'm putting in them order from the one with the brightest notes, and we're going down. So we went from natural order, now we're about to do the order of brightness, meaning that this note has a raised fourth. It's going to sound brighter and happier, okay? So the one brighter than Ionian is Lydian, and this is our major scale Ionian. Alright, so the one down from that has the lowered note, the one lowered note is your Mixolydian. C, D, E, F, we're on this one, G, A, B flat, they've lowered the seventh. Now that has one flat, what has two flats? Well, the next one down is going to be Dorian. It's got an E flat and a B flat. C, D, E flat, which I said is the minor third, okay? F, G, A, B flat. That is your Dorian mode. Alright, we got two flats now. Let's see if we can add another flat. Who's got three flats? Aeolian has three flats. C, D, oh, there's that minor third again. F, G, A flat, and B flat. That is our Aeolian scale. Do we have anyone with four flats? We do. Phrygian. So now we got the C, D flat, E flat, F, G, still got the perfect fifth, A flat, and B flat. And which one is that one? Phrygian. Let's see if we can flatten one more note in there and get it even darker. That's your Locrian down here. It's got five flats. We flatted the fifth. That's going to make diminished later. Watch out. A flat and B flat. Okay. And that's your Locrian or Locrian, however you want to say it. Let's go through and circle just the notes they have in common. If we're looking at this, we notice they all divide right here at the third. These are a flatted third. These are all their major third interval. Right away, we know there's a dividing line here when we divide them in the order of brightness. These are your majors up here. These first three, your major modes. These down here are your minor modes because they have a flatted third, right? To answer the original question, where does the pentatonic scale come from? How does it happen? Why does it work with everything? Because it's only 5 notes, and we're about to answer that question now. So just go down through here. You've got that's the same, 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 same. Can't include that note because that one's off, right? Same, 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 same. Can't include that note because that one's flatted, right? So look what we have here. We have 5 notes. Those 5 notes are shared by all 3 major modes. 5, pentatonic. So that's your major pentatonic scale, is the 1, 2, 3, 5, 6. Let's see what happens on minor pentatonic scale. Of course, they all have the root note in common because we started on the 1. Well, the 2's out. Oh, they all have the minor third. Surprise, surprise. They've all got a fourth. Perfect fourth. Can't include the 5th here. Not on the Locrian. So this is where Locrian doesn't really fit in, does it? It's a diminished thing here. It gets really weird. What we're going to do is say, well, they've all got B flat, right? That's 1, 2, 3, 4. We're looking for 5. This is where minor pentatonic, this is what makes Locrian different. So you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 notes there. It's your first, your third, your fourth, your fifth, and your seventh. And this is where Locrian mode kind of is the outsider here. But let's look at this really quick. For another lesson, but this is 4 half steps from the first note, from your root note. It's a major third interval. These are major modes, okay? What 5 notes do they have in common? C, D, E, G, A. First, second, third, fifth, and sixth. That's your major pentatonic. Alright, let's look at your minor pentatonic. C, E flat, F, G, B flat. That's your minor pentatonic. The reason why the pentatonic scale, major or minor pentatonic scale, works with any major or minor key is because no matter what mode you're playing in, those 3 modes share those 5 notes. So if you're unsure of what mode the song is in, those 5 notes from that scale are going to work with all 3 modes. Same thing with your minor pentatonic box. Because they all share those 5 notes, right? So there's the answer. Why does it work with everything? Why is it so popular? Because they all share the same 5 notes. If you're in a minor key, which is just your flatted third, well, bam, there you go. That's the quickest answer I could give to that question. Have a good day.